The Resident Evil series has served as the gold standard in the survival horror genre for decades, and with Resident Evil Requiem looming on the horizon, it's clear that Capcom isn't slowing down anytime soon. But while the hype surrounding the next undead chapter in this legendary franchise is more than justified, it's far from the only horror game that should be on your radar. From ambitious psychological thrillers to survival nightmares, there are a ton of upcoming horror games that could give Resident Evil Requiem a run for its money. Requiem may be at the top of your wish list, but it shouldn't be the only title in your cart. If you're a fan of sleepless nights, blood pressure spikes, and jump scares that'll give you heart palpitations, then these upcoming horror games deserve your undelayed, white-knuckled, and red-eyed attention.
Remember Little Nightmares? Well, their creators apparently decided that their audiences weren't terrified nearly enough and are all set to unleash the nightmare that is Reanimal onto the world. This time, the story follows a young brother and sister trapped on an island they used to call home, but has since turned into a home-turned-hell nightmare they can't escape from. If that wasn't bad enough, every last one of their friends has mysteriously disappeared without a trace or trail in sight. Their mission is a simple yet harrowing one. Find out what happened to their missing friends, rescue them if possible, and find a way to escape before the island swallows them whole. Of course, no plan ever turns out the way it did on paper, and before long, just escaping with your lives will seem like an impossible pipe dream. With panic-inducing landscapes and a clever use of scale that constantly makes you feel small and powerless, Tarsier Studios has once again reached directly into our nightmares and converted all of our experience into the digital world. The latest title from survival horror is that might keep you awake at night, but this upcoming experience from Tarsier Studios will make you wish you'd never woken up in the first place.
Not every horror game needs to put you in the boots of a gun-wielding hero to keep you on edge. Sometimes, the scariest roles are the ones where you're just another survivor, forced to make judgment calls that you're unqualified to make and can't take back. Quarantine Zone: The Last Check puts you in command of humanity's final blockade in the zombie apocalypse, where survivors come pouring in at a constant, panicked stream, desperate for shelter. Your job? Decide who to let in, who to turn away, who to quarantine, and who to execute immediately before they spread infection to the last safe haven on Earth. Unlike other horror games, you're not holding the gun, and you're not on the front lines. You're just making the decisions for the people that are. And if you screw up, all of humanity is doomed, and you'll be the only one to blame. That setup alone is already chilling enough by itself, but the game's real weight comes from the intense moral pressure you'll be under. Every survivor that steps foot past your borders has a story, and even though everyone deserves to live, some have to die, or you could be dooming the lives of countless others. Even if the gun isn't in your hands, you're the one pulling the trigger. While Resident Evil Requiem will no doubt excel at terrifying encounters with monsters, Quarantine Zone: The Last Check taps into something far more insidious, the impossibly hopeless fear that humanity's survival might demand you sacrifice your own humanity to preserve it.
VR horror games are always a special kind of nightmare fuel, but Of Lies and Ruin took the assignment a little bit too seriously. Set in a bleak, post-apocalyptic sci-fi world, this game thrusts you into a crumbling reality caught between the physical and the digital. You're not just fighting for your own survival here, you're fighting to piece together the haunting conspiracies surrounding your past, while trying to stop humanity from slipping into total extinction. Horror already feels far more immediate in virtual reality, but when you combine that with first-person shooter mechanics and semi-corporeal enemies, yeah, I already know I'm not going to be sleeping for a while after this one. While Resident Evil Requiem is bound to deliver classic survival horror thrills, Of Lies and Ruin looks like it might redefine just how terrifying horror can be altogether. Surviving against mindless hordes of zombies in Resident Evil games is hard enough, but Macabre takes it one step further. Instead of defending yourself against brainless, undead monsters, you're doing everything in your power to survive against a mutated entity that adapts to your every move. Macabre is a 1 to 4 player co-op horror game where the rules never stay the same for very long. You and your team enter a volatile nightmare dimension known as the Rift, a perilous purgatory full of shifting maps, unstable conditions, and a horrifying mutated creature that learns from every move you make. No two runs are ever identical, meaning you'll have to do most of your thinking and planning on your feet. If you falter for even one moment, God only knows what will sink its claws into you the second you turn your back. That kind of unpredictability can keep you constantly on edge, but lawless dimensions and horrifying monsters aren't the only things you'll have to worry about in Macabre. Macabre raises the stakes by adding player choice into the mix. Will you help each other escape as a team, or will you betray your friends for the lion's share of the loot? Trust is a fragile thing when survival isn't guaranteed, and sometimes the scariest thing in the Rift isn't what's hunting you, it's the person standing right beside you. At least you know you can't trust anything that walks on 2 legs in Resident Evil Requiem, but in Macabre, you never know which of your so-called teammates could snap and stab you in the back at a moment's notice.
Remember when Little Nightmares terrorized the gaming world back in 2017? And in 2021, when it brought that terror to new heights with Little Nightmares 2? Well, get ready to wish you hadn't, because Little Nightmares 3 is about to be unleashed upon us all. This time, players follow Lo and Alone, 2 best friends trying to escape the twisted dimension known as the Nowhere. The Nowhere is home to twisted monsters of every variety, and they're all true eager to get their hands on any intrusive little creatures that capture their attention. You'll both need to be ready to run, hide, and even use weapons to defend yourselves at a moment's notice, because these monsters are truly lurking around every corner. From fleeing a colossal monster baby in the ruins of the necropolis to sneaking past swarms of ravenous candy weevils in a grotesque candy factory, Little Nightmares 3 keeps up the tradition of turning familiar childhood spaces into warped nightmares. These new settings are every bit as twisted, imaginative, and disturbing as you'd expect from a Little Nightmares game, and you won't be looking at fairgrounds or ball pits the same way ever again after playing it. The zombies may be scary in Resident Evil Requiem, but hey, at least they're human-sized. The monsters in Little Nightmares 3 only come in XL sizes, making escape seem almost like a fool's errand.
You might already consider grave robbing to be a bad idea, but if you weren't sure before, then Gravewatch is here to hammer it home for you. In this game, you play as Daniel, a single father who's been pushed to the very edge. Child support isn't an option, and the only way he's able to support his sick daughter is by robbing graves in the middle of the night. It's a sick, desperate, and morally gray setup. But hey, someone's gotta pay the bills around here, and it's not gonna be your daughter. You're not out here trying to cause trouble or desecrate people's loved ones or anything. You're just a desperate man doing awful things for the right reasons. Of course, as they often do, things go horribly wrong one night during a routine grave robbery. The more you dig, the more you find yourself trapped in a waking nightmare, where the line between the living and the dead becomes blurred beyond all recognition. And the dead decide they'd like to come back for the things they've lost. If you're excited about getting up close and personal with Resident Evil Requiem's undead enemies, then you might as well add Gravewatch to your wish list right now.
Since 2015, the Dying Light series has always been about the thrill of racing through hordes, the terror of nightfall, and the desperation of surviving in a world overrun by the infected. If it's got Dying Light in its name, you know it's gonna be good. But Dying Light the Beast is about to take everything you knew about the Dying Light franchise and turn it on its head. In the Beast, you're not just running and gunning through the monster menace, you're becoming it. Playing this again is Kyle Crane. You find yourself scarred by years of torturous experiments at the hands of the sinister Baron, whose DNA tampering has left you caught between human and zombie. Struggling against the beast growing inside you, you'll have to learn to control it before you can take your revenge. Every encounter in the dangerous Gaster Woods becomes more than just a battle to stay alive. It's a fight to resist your own transformation from human to beast. And when night falls, that balance gets even harder to maintain. In Dying Light the Beast, the enemy isn't just coming at you from the outside, but on the inside as well. The zombies may be coming at you from every angle in Resident Evil Requiem, but in the Beast, the call is coming from inside the house.
Few things feel as scary and hopeless as being lost in a remote jungle. Unless, of course, that jungle is also cursed, full of bloodthirsty monsters, and happens to be at the center of a Lovecraftian conspiracy no one's ever escaped from. The Mound, Omen of Cthulhu, throws you and up to 3 of your friends into an uncharted jungle on a remote island, supposedly in search of riches and treasure. Unfortunately, however, all you're gonna find is horrifying entities, warped and distorted landscapes, and a growing sense of paranoia-induced panic that slowly eats away at your sanity. Unlike many horror games, where the horror part is right up front and obvious, this game's true fear comes in the form of psychological tricks and deceptive illusions that always lurk just beyond the edge of your vision. You'll never know what's real and what's not, who to trust and who to doubt, when to run away and when to hide. That kind of internal turmoil can easily eat away at whatever's left of your gray matter. Before long, you'll start to wonder if you can even trust yourself. In this game, you don't just have to fear what's on the outside, but what's on the inside too. While Requiem might offer you horror on a silver platter, the Mound Omen of Cthulhu promises a slower, more insidious and sneaky kind of terror, the kind that won't let you sleep for days after you've finished it.
If there's one popular horror setting that'll never stop being terrifying, it's space. There's something deeply frightening about being so far from home and knowing there's nowhere to run if things go south. And that's not even including what might be waiting out there for you in the dark abyss. The game begins with Earth on the brink of collapse, forcing humanity to look to the stars for survival. Surprisingly, a life-bearing planet is found within a reasonable distance, and a colony ship, the Cassiopeia, is launched out of it like a bat out of hell. But what should have been humanity's fresh start turns into a nightmare when the vessel crash lands. Stranded light years from home, the crew soon discovers they're not alone. In space, nothing is as it seems, and as you'll all soon find out, death wears many faces. The most unsettling horror games are the ones that seem plausible, and Directive 8020 honestly doesn't land too far off the mark. Let's face it, Earth hasn't been doing too great these past few years, and climate scientists have been breathing down our necks for decades about changing before it's too late. And then you have billionaires like Elon Musk talking publicly about colonizing other planets, and suddenly games like Directive 8020 don't seem all that implausible anymore. Yeah, zombies are scary and all, but Directive 8020 is the kind of game that will sit in the back of your mind for years after playing it, wondering when it'll be our turn next.
The Silent Hill series has always been synonymous with psychological terror. And while I'm sure Resident Evil Requiem will no doubt be a standout hit in its own series, Silent Hill F looks like it's about to be a bold reimagining of its entire haunting legacy.
Set in 1960s Japan, Silent Hill F follows Shimizu Hinako in her quiet hometown of Arabusuga Oka, as it's swallowed by a dense, eerie fog, transforming once familiar streets into a haunting terrain. With reality crumbling quickly around her, Hinako must face distorted entities bearing familiar faces, unravel mind-bending environmental puzzles, and attempt to understand what's happened to her once peaceful home. The answer she finds may not be the one she expects, however, and what she decides to do with it will shape her own fate, along with the fate of the entire world, forever. Silent Hill F's blend of psychological torment, grotesque imagery, and disturbing do-or-die choices, all thrown into a haunting new setting, could make it one of the most striking horror experiences in years. Requiem be damned. If it lands the way it's shaping up to, Silent Hill F could mark not just a comeback for the whole series, but a redefining chapter in psychological horror games altogether.